Hey, Susan Palmer here of Lead Cat Press, and I wanted to hop on and do a studio update again. A while back, I discontinued my weekly studio updates just because I got really busy. I did an online class for She Shreds. I participated in the 2022 She Shreds 1 Riff a Day Challenge, and both those things you can see on my channel. The class that I did has a free PDF that you can grab on my website, leadcatpress.com, and I'm sure there's a link somewhere below for you as well. And so with these weekly studio updates, what I tried to do is just kind of share something that came up in my studio that week with students and kind of package it in a way that was easy for me to do, where I could present something kind of fun and challenging for y'all to work on. Maybe some of you who are working through the Guitar Lesson Companion books on your own, or if you're thinking about taking lessons with me, or you're taking lessons with somebody else and you just want to have some more information. So today what I want to go through is I want to show you some different strategies to work on a 12-bar blues in all 12 keys. And I've got a video for that. I'll link it below. And I've got about 2 minutes on each key. And so it goes through 12-bar blues in all 12 keys, 2 minutes per key. And there's a lot of ways that you can use that exercise. So first of all, this is something that you can do in about 25 minutes. You can add this to your regular practice routine just on the days when you have the time. And whatever level you're at, I think it's going to really increase your understanding of the fretboard, help you with chord inversions, and if nothing else, it's going to kind of shed a light on areas that you need to improve and you need to work on. Maybe you need to have a teacher like me help you through some of this stuff. These exercises are set up in 3 different levels, and I've got things that are going to help you with your soloing as well as your understanding of chords. So let's get started. So in level 1, we're going to focus on 5th and 6th string root chords, and we're also going to focus on major pentatonic, minor pentatonic, and blues scale patterns. And if you need refreshers on those scale patterns, I've got some links below in the description box for you. So I'm going to let the track roll. It's going to be the key of C because that's the first track on the video that accompanies this lesson. And the first time through, I'm going to play those E and A string root chords. Second time through, I'm going to take a solo, kind of using some pentatonic ideas and maybe some blues scale ideas as well. It's tough not to keep going on that. So there is your example of some E and A string roots and a solo example there. I did step out of that those patterns a little bit there. I'm sorry, I can't help it. I think that the scale patterns and just those scales in general offer a really good basic recipe of sound for some great musical ideas. And, at the end of the day, you want to follow the music, you want to follow your ear. In level 2, we're going to focus on the caged chord shapes, and that will allow us to play each one of those progressions in 5 different places on the neck. And then we're also going to focus on the root notes for the solo part. So that will help you get this chord progression really in your ear in all 12 keys. Maybe you'll memorize it in the process. How cool would that be? And you'll also get really familiar with the guitar neck, or more familiar, because if you're this far, you're somewhat familiar with the guitar neck already. So I want to start the chord part in the lowest position possible. So I've got a C7 chord right here, and I call that the C shape. In the blues form, in the key of C, that's followed by the F7 chord. Here I'm playing an E string root. Then it goes back to the C chord, so I'm going to go back to my C7 shape. Next up, I have a G minor 7, so I'm using an E string root for that. A C7, so I'm using that C shape again. Then I'm going to play the next chord, which is F7. followed by F sharp, diminished 7. And if you need some help with these chord voicings, they're in my book, The Guitar Lesson Companion, Volume 1, along with a bunch of exercises so that you really learn all this stuff. I digress. The next chord is C7, so I'm going back to that C shape there. Next chord is E minor 7, so I'm going to play the D string root for that, or the D shape. And then I have an A7, so I'm using the G string root, or the G shape. And then I have a D minor 7, so I'm using the D shape again for that. And then I've got a G7, so I'm using the G shape, or G string root for that. And then I go back to, I have a little turnaround here, so I've got a C7, so I'm using the C shape for that. A7, so I've got my G string root shape for that. Then I've got D minor 7, D shape root for that, and then G7, a G root for that one. So that's how you could play that whole chord progression right around this area. So you can use that and you can play it, again, up the neck in another position. So if this was my first chord shape that I used for that first chord, my next C7 is here. So for the next round, you could play the blues starting with your A string root, and then we've got a D string root for your next chord. So you can see, you can take this in 5 different places because we've got these 5 different starting notes, 5 different shapes. I just played a C7 in 5 different places. So you can use that as that's your first chord of the chord progression, and then follow that with all of the other cage shapes. So that's something that, if you can do that just from this video, I think that's fantastic. That may be something that you need help, with the teacher to help guide you and prepare you to be able to do that. And I want to say that, this exercise, it's a drill. It's not music. This is like, you spending some time at the gym, doing push-ups, sit-ups, and whatever you do in the gym, so that you can play the game. So you can play basketball or soccer. It's strengthening those muscles so that you improve your game. So this is not like, if you do this, you're not like automatically a great musician. I just like having these drill studies because it's something, really concrete that I can measure my students' progress by. And so I can make sure that they keep learning new things each week. And they do all show up in their music when they're playing, because if you all of a sudden know 5 different ways to play each chord, you have a lot more options of what you can do when you're reading a chart or writing your own song or playing with somebody else who maybe has written a song for you. So I just want to kind of state that these are great exercises. All right, so the level 2 kind of solo exercise I have for you is just to play the root notes of each one of those chords as the progressions go by. So there I just played, I'm in 5th position area. So I just played all of the C's in that 5th position. Next chord is F. So there's the F's, then it goes back to C. You could do that. I think that would be a great way to go through this if you're ready. You might also, maybe you're just at the point where you can kind of do that with one pitch, maybe an open position. Or maybe you want to go through that whole study and just play, on one string. Say you're not really good at your B string, so you want to improve the note recognition on your B string. So you could just run that exercise, just on one string to really get that linear understanding of the string. And by doing that, it's also great ear training because you're really implanting, this chord sequence in your mind. So, and it's such a popular chord sequence. I think it'd be really helpful to kind of make that part of your intuition. In level 3, I encourage you to use more chord inversions. And these chord inversions, I have my students study in Volume 2 of the Guitar Lesson Companion. I don't write out the chord inversions for folks because I find that students really learn it a lot better if they write it out for themselves. When I was learning guitar, I asked one of my teachers, if he knew a good chord book, because I was starting to learn jazz, there's all these chords, and, just wanted a recommendation. I thought that would be a pretty quick answer. And he said, you got to make your own. And so I just really flew by the seat of my pants trying to come up with all of these different chord shapes. I had maps of the fretboard. It was this whole thing. And honestly, it didn't turn out so well. A lot of those chords that I came up with were not ones that were very useful to me. So I like to provide some guardrails for my students. I want them to do their work on their own, but I also want to be there so that they don't end up wasting a lot of time doing something that, you know, maybe with a couple words from me, they could steer their course into a more efficient direction. So for the chord inversions, there's lots of ways that you can practice these chord inversions. So I'm going to demonstrate this example using the top 4 strings and using drop 2 voicings, which are in my book, The Guitar Lesson Companion Volume 2. First chord is C7. Next chord is F7, so I'm going to descend with my F7 shapes, then go back up with my my C7. Then we have a quick change here. We have G minor 7, and then back to C7, and then it goes back to the F7, and then F sharp diminished 7, and then back to C7, and then another quick change. So the E minor, and then A7. D minor, and then G7, kind of like that G7 up there, and then C7 again, and then A7, D minor, and then finally G7, and then you'd be at the top again. There's that C7. For the improv section or the solo section for this level, I would encourage you to practice your arpeggio. So for the C7, and then for the F7, and so forth through the chord changes there. That's a big thing that I cover in Volume 2. That's the majority of it, is going through arpeggio studies up the entire neck so that, you know, there's no way you can't know them after you go through all of that. But it is a lot of work, and I do recommend working with a good teacher if you are to go about that route of study, which is vital. If there's anything you want to play on guitar, you got to know your arpeggios. Doesn't matter the style. It helps you learn your instrument. So vital information there that we all have to master at some point. So yeah, that's level 3. And yeah, now I'm just going to play a little bit for you to send you off. And thanks again for watching. And I hope you watch all of my videos and subscribe and share and all that stuff that'll help me bump my numbers up. I've told people that, you know, if I get to the point where I can monetize this channel again, all that money is going to go to scholarships for students who can't afford guitar lessons. Obviously, music accessibility is a big part of what I believe in as a music educator. I also believe in paying teachers well for their work that they do with their students. So hope you have a good one, and I'll see you next time.